All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Growth, Grit, and Grace podcast. And today I have one of my favorite newer friends, and I'm excited for her to share a little bit about her transformation. And yeah, it's been pretty incredible to watch. And even just in the short time I've known you, you've even come such a long way since then. But when I saw what you posted about at the beginning of your journey, I was even more shocked. Do you want to just introduce yourself and just start, from the top?
Yeah, my name is Eva Wisz. I live in Buffalo, New York right now. Grew up here, my roots are here, and I first started my journey a couple years ago. Well, you and I are in the Earn It All program, and that's when it really took a transformation for the better, and that was last May. So it's almost been a year,
Wow.
but I've been exposed to a different way of life about 2.5 years ago. When I first started selling cars, I had no idea what I was doing. So I looked up on YouTube, like, how do you sell a car? And Andy's videos popped up. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy says that you can make $10,000 a month selling cars. Like, this is cool. I have no idea what to do. So I started watching him, and little did I know that was going to turn into a complete transformation in every single area of my life, not only with selling cars, but health, relationships, and pretty much everything. It took a while to build into what it was or what it is today, but it's so worth it. And the journey has just begun. And I'm so excited to see where we go from here, honestly.
Yes, I love it. So, what got you into car sales?
So I was working two jobs at the time in the restaurant business. And I feel like a lot of people come from, some type of serving or bartending job and go right into sales. It's pretty normal. So I had two jobs at the time. I was looking for a third. So I started off as an assistant because my friend offered me a job there. Her whole family worked at the dealership. Started off as an assistant, did that for 2 years, and then I figured if I was doing all that work for someone else, I can surely do it for myself. And that's when I quit the other two jobs, made the transition into one full-time sales job, and now I've been selling cars for 3 years.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of different directions we could go with that. And I know
Right.
your story, but do you mind just giving us some insight into what's going on in your life when you join the Earn It All program, when you really start making some big changes?
So I was training with the car sales training, and the career was going pretty good, but I always loved fitness. I just didn't have a structure in the way that I wanted it. So when I was exposed to that group, I'm sure you can relate to this too. When I was exposed to that group, I was like, wow, something's really missing in my life. And I feel like if I have my fitness and my health in check, then that's just going to make everything else better. And I was 100% right. Like once I got that structured and had a plan and people who knew exactly what worked for me and what to put me on, it just changed everything. Before I was around 190, and
Mhm.
right now I'm around 170. My
Wow.
goal by June 2nd is to be 155. And I think that's going to be like a really good weight for me. I don't want to go too much lower than that. But yeah, 155 by June 2nd is the goal. But right now we're
Let's
at
go.
170. Yeah.
Let's go. That's
Yeah.
huge. And I feel like on your social media, when I recently saw your before and after, not
Mhm.
only did you lose weight, but I feel like the care that you have for yourself, just in the way that you carry
Oh my
yourself,
God.
is so apparent. Like
It's
you look like a whole different person, and you're always smiling and like you're always dressing cute. Your hair's always done. You got the
so
lashes, like you're just a completely new person.
I feel like it too. Like, even though the 20 pounds might not sound like a lot of weight, my whole entire body has transformed in different ways. I feel better too, and I feel happier, and it just shows, and I feel like I'm shining sometimes,
Yeah, I
It's
feel like that
great.
too. Every time you
Yeah.
pop up in my feed, I'm just like, oh, like your
Oh, I
smile
love
is
that.
so bright and vibrant. You're just like always smiling. I love
Thanks,
it.
girl.
So, what would you say your biggest challenge was during that time?
During that time, I think giving up the bad habits that I was doing, and really staying consistent was the most challenging because during that time I was in a relationship where we would go out drinking all the time. Like we were starting to go to the gym together and like have healthier habits, but it wasn't a complete flip of the switch until I got out of that relationship and like really put in the work and completely focused on myself is when the switch really flipped.
Yeah. I know that's always such a really tough situation to be
Hmm.
in when the relationship you're in is part of like
Right.
enmeshed into those habits. What was ultimate like the deciding factor in you leaving that relationship?
I just knew I was meant for more. I had that feeling. It was like a lingering feeling for, I was in that relationship for 3 years, and the last year of it, I always knew that I was meant for more than what that relationship could offer me. And that doesn't mean that the other person was a bad person or anything. It wasn't meant to be. And I outgrew it. And I think that's okay. And I'm at peace with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in this relationship, you make this
Mhm.
total transformation, you do all these things, but I also know during this time you switched jobs and you had to
Hmm.
start from scratch. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I actually did that a few times. So last year, I was selling cars the whole time, but I was at four, three, three different stores during 1 year, which is a lot of starting over continuously. So I never felt like I got full traction because I was always starting something new. So whenever I had that momentum built up, it's kind of like, okay, well, this isn't right for me. So let me try this instead, and just kind of like changing the direction, come full circle. Now I know why all that happened. But in the moment, yeah, it was hard to like keep that momentum going when I was always starting over.
So with starting over, I mean, what gave you the courage to keep changing direction and keep trying something new?
Kind of the same thing with the relationship. I just knew I was meant for more, or I was meant for something different. Like I'm really happy that I tried these things out, but once I realized that it wasn't aligned with where I was supposed to go, like I always had this feeling inside that I kept coming back to, like, this just isn't it, or something's off here. I'm trying, but it's not grabbing my full attention, and I don't feel passionate about it. Just needed to change.
So,
But
do you feel like that was, and I love that you said that because I see all the time when people do feel that and they don't listen to that feeling. And I'm just super passionate
hmm.
about coming back into alignment, listening to that inner guide and listening to that inner voice. Because when you're feeling called to more, it can feel scary if you don't know what to do with it. And
Right.
so you made all these changes and you just kept trying, which is really great because, like I said, I think so many people get stuck in that feeling where like they
Hmm.
feel the call for more, but they just get paralyzed by it almost.
Right. I'm grateful that you think that it's great because a lot of people don't. And that's why we're aligned too.
Yeah.
Because I would get a lot of outside perspective saying, like, oh, I can't keep up with where you are. And are you ever gonna like settle down at one store? I felt like the people around me wanted me to stay in one area and just keep to it. and they didn't want me to explore other options. They just wanted to keep me safe, which is why I value like Earn It All program and the Elliott Army and everyone like that because they don't want to see me like play it safe and stay small, you know?
Yeah. I totally relate to that too, and we're both so young and early in the process. Why not try everything at this
Right,
age? We don't have a family, support
right,
like to rely on us. It's why not follow the call? And I
right.
think other people's fear projected onto you is such an interesting thing because if you think about it, who says that? The people that are scared to make changes themselves. So if they
Mhm.
make you wrong for going after your dreams, then they can feel better about themselves. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So, and I love Andy Elliott for that too. Like he's definitely woken me up in a lot of ways. And I got introduced to his content when I was at a, a really weird place in my journey. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to wake up and make some of these
Yeah.
changes. Like, what am I doing? I'm asleep at the wheel over here, just going through the motions. Like, what's going
Right.
on? I never used to be that girl. And so
Right.
I just love having these conversations because it's such a good reminder to no matter what, always follow that inner guide. It will always lead you exactly to where you're supposed to go. And I
Right.
think you were alluding to this earlier, but we can always connect the dots going backwards. We can never connect them looking forwards, right? So
I
we always just
heard
have
that.
to
Yeah.
trust. We have to
Yeah.
trust in that inner knowing that it's going to lead us in the right way. And that's why I think, my faith to something greater than myself has really been the biggest game changer in the last year because I
Yeah.
really do feel like there's an ordained plan for my life and like that we're all meant to be great. And so when people talk about, well, how do you know if you're meant to be someone great or going down that road? I'm like, we all are. We're all here
Yeah.
for a different purpose. And I believe we're all supposed to be great. And so in our own unique way.
Funny you say that, mentioning the faith too, because recently I questioned my relationship with God and having a faith. And I know like a couple months ago when I came to Arizona, we went to the Impact Church that was awesome, but I've never been exposed to anything like that before. And once I started to question my relationship, it started to grow. And it's
Mm,
that exposure too at first. Like it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but it got better and better. And now I'm starting to practice that every single day and incorporate that into my life. And once I did, things just started opening up. And it's wild how that works, but we already have like this plan set out for us. So when you have that little feeling inside of you, like, hey, this is where you're supposed to go, it's okay to try other things. But like, I always felt that guiding me. I just didn't know what that voice was. And
right.
now I can more understand that, which is cool.
I got like full body chills when you just said that because it's true. And I think like for me,
That's
I've had my ups and downs and I grew up really religious. And so I always had like a fundamental belief, but what that
mm,
has meant to me over the years has really changed. And coming back to that, it just feels right. And when I moved to Scottsdale, it's just crazy. Like everybody's talking about God, and there's just so
yeah.
many different types of believers. And like you were saying,
Mhm.
like I had never been exposed to that. Right. And so it
Right.
opened up all these possibilities for me where I was allowed to believe in a way that felt good for me at my pace.
Mhm.
Right. And
Right.
so the more that I leaned in, and the thing is going back to our thing, our stance on just following what feels good. Every time I would go there, I would just feel good. And I
Right.
feel uplifted in my spirit and I feel really hopeful. And so
100%.
that grew over time into a stronger faith. And now I feel more reliant on that. And it's
Mhm.
been such a small difference, but has made such a world of difference at the same time.
Yeah. It's cool to feel connected to a higher power, no matter what you believe in, just knowing that there's more out there
Yeah,
and you can just feel connected, you know?
absolutely. So, with that being said, looking back on, all these big changes, trying all these new things, what do you feel? Did you ever hit like a rock bottom moment at any of that where you were like lonely or just feeling like really stuck before all of this, like really positive transformation?
More than one time. Many rock bottoms. Many, many. A lot of them had to do with drinking.
Mm,
That was a really big problem for me. Every single time I would do that, I would go into this dark place and it wouldn't put me in a good state of mind. It put me in this really weird headspace. So when I knew it was time to cut that out of my life, I just knew that it wasn't serving me a purpose anymore. But there was multiple times where I hit that rock bottom and just kept questioning, like, why do I keep coming to this point? Now come around full circle. I know I had to go through all of that so I can help other people that are going through the same thing. And it's not something that I wanted to talk about before. I'm starting to be open to talking about it now because I know that it is helping people. And I've already connected with even some guys that are older than me, like some grown men who are going through the same struggle. I know I had to go through those rock bottoms to come out and, shine the light on that and help other people.
yeah, drinking is such a tough one for me in my story as well. And growing up religious,
Hmm.
I always had a lot of guilt about it.
Hmm.
And I've always, in the back of my mind, same thing, known this isn't helping, this isn't adding to your
Right.
life. And especially moving to Arizona, there's a few times with the heat where it just did not go well. And when
I'm
I joined
sure.
Earn It All as well, I made a really strong commitment for my health to see
Right.
what kind of difference it would make. And it sounds really vain, but honestly, what helped me absolutely have more control over my drinking habits was knowing it was preventing me from burning more fat. And like,
Hmm.
so seeing
Yep.
how good of results I had 30 days just not doing it, it was crazy. It was like night and day, and my emotions
Right.
leveled out, you know, paired with better eating and properly nourishing my body. But it really healed my relationship with it because I wasn't
Mhm.
relying on it. It wasn't just out of habit that I was grabbing it out of the fridge or doing it because, oh, I always drink wine with dinner. I always drink a glass of wine to unwind. It now became for like leisure or like, you know, to celebrate something. It wasn't the same tool as it was before.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Well, good for you. What do you feel like your biggest wins
Well,
and comebacks have been?
I think putting myself out there, connecting with new people. I've always been an outgoing person, but just really being open to having connections, like you and me became friends because of that, and just really putting myself out there and being uncomfortable. I mean, that's huge. You never know what's going to happen. So, what do you have to lose? And I've met so many amazing people just putting myself out there and being uncomfortable that over time it becomes easier and more natural to do. So, I think that's a huge win, honestly.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to others facing a setback or struggling with some of the things that we talked about?
Keep your energy on positive things in your life. So, don't be too hard on yourself if everything's not perfect, 'cause it's not going to be perfect all the time. You're going to have setbacks, but as long as you put forth an effort to be at least 1% better every single day and like self-correct, then you can keep pushing forward and eventually it's just going to become more natural, but just keep putting forth that energy and effort to correcting those little habits, and then it'll become natural.
Eventually, over time, they compound, and boom, next thing you know,
Right.
you're killing it. You're down weight. You're
You're high
just
level.
showing up every day. And
Yeah.
I just commend you so much because I really see you doing the work and I really see you being consistent and really putting yourself out there in big ways. And so I'm just so excited to see where you go next. Well, thanks so much for your time and
Of
for sharing your
course.
story. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.